Hey, everybody. Welcome to another bonus episode of BGA. This one, again, will be on YouTube. So if you're watching this there, my name is Anthony. I'm one of the co-hosts on Board Gamers Anonymous. We've been doing this for a long time. So check it out if you're interested in board games, tabletop games, all things games. This week, however, I'm doing video games. So every year I do my end of the year lists and I talk through the games that stuck out to me throughout the year. Obviously, my primary love and joy in the world is board games. But I've been playing video games since I was 3 years old, and I do play a fair number every year in terms of volume. I don't necessarily finish a lot of games every year, and the reason for that is just time. I used to, right? Right. I always tell my kids a story. Um, what year was it? I think I was 15 years old, and I used the Christmas money I got from my dad that year to buy a PlayStation. And at that point, the PlayStation had been out for a few years, so like I was a Nintendo kid. But I bought a PlayStation and I bought Final Fantasy VII about 2 years after it came out, and I beat the whole thing over winter break. Right, not just beat it, like beat it and then pull up the guides and like beat the weapons and bred the chocobos. Like I played a good 70 something hours of that game over 9 days. So I love me some video games. I play a decent number throughout the year. It's a nice way to relax at the end of the day if I don't have the mental capacity to sit and read a rule book or to set up a game. Or honestly, and this is the most common situation, is kids are finally in bed, dishes are finally done, I finally sit down, I have like 40 minutes, right? And sometimes I feel like playing a light, quick board game. Sometimes I just want to watch TV, and sometimes I want to play a video game. And so over the course of 300 some odd days, you add up a bunch of 40-minute segments, I do finish a couple games, and I play a bunch of others. So this is my top 10 for the year. These are my favorite games that came out in 2025. And I will say, of the list, I have finished, like fully finished, three ish, four, somewhere in there. It's not a lot. But the thing about this year's list is a lot of these are borderline endless games. So it was a weird year in video games. I'm not a video game podcast, obviously. Like if you're listening to this on the Patreon, you know that. We don't talk about video games very often unless they are of board games or very similar to board games. But uh, one of my favorite genres of game is the roguelike, the endless, like just constantly building up and circling back and trying again. And then my second favorite genre is RPG, which is also really long. And I tend to maybe finish one a year if I'm lucky. So, anywho, I've got 10 games. I'm going to run through them. Before I dive into that, some quick honorable mentions. Always fun to talk about the games that I've been playing that I liked but didn't make the list. First up, Monster Train 2, and this is probably closest to the board game bucket. This is a card game in which you are on a train descending into hell. I think this time you're descending or ascending to heaven, and you're fighting angels instead of demons. I don't remember. The story doesn't make any sense, and I don't really care. But it's you're building up a deck of cards. You're fighting things on this train. You have multiple tiers on each train in which you're putting out combatants to fight. It's like Slay the Spire, but like with a little tweak and a little bit shorter on the runtime. So I love the first one. Played a lot of it. The second one has a lot of interesting new mechanical elements, but it's not fundamentally different from the first game. And I don't know. I played it a few times throughout the year. I really enjoyed it, but it didn't really like make my permanent list. Another game that I got started on and just didn't have time to really delve into too much more is Ghost of Yotei. Ghost of Tsushima came out in 2020, which means I played a lot of it. I think this one came out a week or two after The Last of Us 2, and I beat The Last of Us 2 in like a week or two, and then I played Ghost of Yotei almost the day it came out, and I played it for about a month, maybe 30, 40 hours, and sometime mid-summer of 2020, with all the COVID stuff, I decided I wanted to spend all my time outside, because I'd been inside at that point for 4 months, like all of us had, and I was just like, less video games, and so I went outside. It was midsummer. I spent a lot of time in the park, so I trailed off on that one, but I really, really enjoyed it. And Ghost of Yotei is like a refinement of that, so it's more of the same, but also better. And you are, traveling in medieval Japan and completing all these quests and trying to find these bad guys who killed your family. It's a really cool, tropey but cool and a well implemented story. And I'll probably get back to it at some point. It's just the kind of game I will play. Um, Especially with 2026 looking like it's going to be the year of Grand Theft Auto 6. I don't like Grand Theft Auto games. I'm not really a fan of being the bad guy, even if they're misunderstood. So I probably won't be playing that unless there's something fundamentally different about it that I'm unaware of, like from a social construct angle. But that said, I recognize how big that game is and the fact that a lot of other games maybe will get pushed out of this year, and maybe I'll have more time to come back to some of this stuff. So Ghost of Yotei is like high on that list to circle back to. Ball X Pit, however you say that. It was a cool like breakout style game. So it's like an endless. I keep saying endless runner. It's the wrong genre. It's a roguelike, but each run you are powering up and getting these different balls, and they go out and you beat up these bad guys. And that's fun enough by itself. It's got like a Vampire Survivors kind of element to it, where you're just constantly moving and you auto fire, which is perfect for my brain at 11 o'clock at night, especially after like a day of teaching or like if the kids are home. I'm like, yep, no, this is perfect. I don't have to think. I can put on The Office or The Simpsons or something mindless and just move the guy around. But it also has like a town building element or a city building element, which is also breakout style. So it's got a lot of cool stuff. The game's actually a lot deeper than it seems once you get far enough in it. I didn't get quite as far as I would have liked. I played it like for 2 weeks straight. It's when it came out. Was in love with it, and then trailed off over the holidays as I was like trying to circle back to some other stuff. So it's great. I will certainly be playing more of it. And again, like all the games I'm going to talk about today, it's the kind of game you can just keep coming back to because why not? Like you can play it for a little bit. You don't need to think about it too hard. It's not a game like there's a couple of games today that like if you take a bunch of time off, they get hard again. And we didn't have a Souls game this year. We didn't have like an Elden Ring game, but we had a couple others that are similar. So I love those games, but I often fall off of them because it is hard to stay good when you stop playing. And I stop playing sometimes. Two other ones here that really stood out to me this year that I had fun with. One, that's my watch, sorry. One is Tony Hawk 3 and 4. So I was, I mentioned that PlayStation I bought. And then when Tony Hawk came out the next year, I played that incessantly. Just 100%ed it multiple times through, would clear the save, start again. Tony Hawk 2 even more so. Like those two games I played so much. They came out when I was in high school. I was the perfect age. It was just like an arrow directly to my heart, right? Like you will love this, and I did. Tony Hawk 3 came out towards the tail end of high school, so I had my PlayStation 2 at that point, and I got it, and along with the modem. That was a big deal. Like that was like the first purchase I ever made on my credit card. So I played that online, and I was pretty good at it. Like I'd be getting scores up like 5-10 million because I could just keep going without falling down. I'm not that good anymore. But I enjoy it a lot. And it turns out, like in my head, Tony Hawk 1 and 2 were like perma stuck in my brain, but I think I played 3 even more because it came out at that time when I had a PlayStation and my parents had stopped telling me when to turn things off. I was like 16, 17 years old, and I would stay up till 3 in the morning just playing over and over and over again, tying up the phone line. I booting that up, the 3 remake this year, the remaster, I remembered everything, which was weird. Like for a game I haven't played in almost 25 years, it was just all still there. The 4 remake, I didn't really get into 4. This one came out when I was in college. I had a little bit less time. I didn't love the open worldness of it. I want levels. I want time crunch. I want to know what I'm supposed to do. Like meandering around and running into people, which I know some people really loved. It just wasn't for me. So like 4 is where I dropped off of the series, and like Underground 2, just wasn't a fan. But 3, awesome. And then they turned 4 like into a type of 3. So I spent a good chunk of time in like July, August, and just beat these. Not that it takes that long, but just sat there and just ran all the way through them. And the only reason they're not on my top 10 this year is just that it felt weird. It's like I've already played. It felt like going back to an old game that I'd like it would be like putting Mario World on here. I beat Mario World like 2 or 3 times a year just because it's fun to play Mario World. But obviously the game came out 33 years ago, so 34 years ago. So those are some games I played, enjoyed. Didn't quite make the list. Let's dive into the list proper. So we have 10 games here. Same thing I do with my board game list, which you can check out. Put that up last week. The first one, and my watch is going to just create all this noise. Sorry. So the first one, number 10, is a game I picked up for my birthday because the Switch 2 released about a week and a half before my birthday this year. So it was like a good excuse to just buy a Switch 2, which I did. The only game that really came out at that point with it, though, was Mario Kart World. So I'm in an interesting place with Mario Kart World. And if you've listened to the podcast Into the Ether, they talk about this idea of like A2 games where if a game comes out and it's like an iteration or development on another game in the same series and it's not quite as good as that, we tend to dismiss it, right? Like, oh, it's not as good as that one, so it's not good. And so I think Mario Kart World got that treatment this year. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best Mario Kart, hands down. It's got like 50 tracks. It's got all these elements. Like, played hundreds and hundreds of hours of that game by myself, with my kids, on the road, whatever. Mario Kart World comes out, and it's not quite as good. Like the way they changed the Grand Prix, where like some of the tracks aren't really tracks; they're just like going from one track to the other. The open world element of it is cool, but it's not fun because it's missing. It's not as vibrant as you'd want it to be. But the game itself is still very good, right? It's a Mario Kart game. They put a lot of time into it. It plays really well. Like, you play with 24 carts now. It's chaos. It's fun. The online mode is really cool. Knockout Tour is amazing. It comes with battle mode out of the box, which if you didn't have a Wii U, you don't remember this, but the original Mario Kart 8 did not. The battle mode was you race around a track and try to hit each other. It didn't have like the battle tracks. So I like Mario Kart World a lot. And when I looked at my playtime for the year, I played like 70 something hours of it. I know a lot of it with the kids, but a lot, period. And I technically beat it in the sense that I saw credits and beat all the tracks, got gold on everything. So I don't think I've unlocked the mirror mode because mirror mode requires you to do a bunch of weird stuff in the open world, but I beat all the Grand Prix, which in my brain, as somebody who played Mario Kart in 1992 and beat that game, that's good enough. It's done. I finished it, and I'll continue playing it for the next 10 years or however long this one lives. I'm sure there'll be DLC for it. I look forward to it, new tracks and stuff. But yeah, it's really good. It's if you have a Switch, if you get a Switch 2, you're probably going to get this because if you buy it in the bundle, the game ends up costing like $40 or $50. And it's Mario Kart. Unless you hate Mario Kart, which there's nothing wrong with that if you don't like Mario Kart. But unless you hate Mario Kart, it's a good game. So sounded great. It's not Mario Kart 8 level, but I don't even know if Mario Kart 8 would be higher on my list than this. So there you have it, folks. Mario Kart World, Switch 2. Next up is a game that I never in a million years would have played, except several podcasts I listened to were talking about it, and there was a demo, and you could play through like the first 2-3 hours of it, and I found it interesting. And then it was on sale over the holiday break, and so I picked it up, and it's number 9 on the list because I haven't gotten super far in it, but to be fair, it's like a 200 hour game. The 100 Line, Last Defense Academy. This is a visual novel tactics RPG. I don't know. Like, again, I'm not a video game podcast, so I don't even know what that means. But it's anime style, effectively. And so if you play like Danganronpa, I think one of the developers or designers of that is working on this with someone else. And again, I'm sorry, I don't know the background too well, but it is you are the part I've played, which apparently is still the prologue, even though I've played like 20 hours of the game. The part I've played, you are this high school student and you live in this like weird kind of controlled world where like there's these attacks that happen, like you're basically under a dome. And then one day this weird little creature shows up and you gain this ability, like if you basically cut yourself, that you can fight these things, right? And so you get taken to this school, this Last Defense Academy, and there's a bunch of other teenagers there. And then visual novel ensues, but also tactics. It's really, really fun. I've heard that the game gets really crazy after the prologue part, which, again, as someone who doesn't have time for 100-hour games anymore, the fact that I'm this far into the game, like the full amount of many other games, and I'm still like haven't gotten to the main meat of the game is crazy to me. But I will say the gameplay is fun. I don't usually like story only games. This is not a story only game. The story is itself compelling, even though I'm not to the bulk of it yet. Apparently, the characters are cool. There's a bunch of different people here representing a lot of different tropes in this type of game or anime. But I feel like they're making fun of those tropes a little bit, so that's fun. Um, I don't know. In a year where I don't want to say rediscovered anime, but watched more of it than I have in the last 5-10 years. This one really stuck out to me as like it's not super cringy. It doesn't have like that weird earnest saccharine energy that kind of rubs me the wrong way. Often in anime style video games. Um, the voice acting's decent, not great, but decent. It's fun. It's a good game. So I'm gonna keep chipping away at it. It feels like the kind of thing I can circle back to every week or two, and I'm not gonna lose where I'm at because it's a lot happening, but it's a slow burn. But it's fun. I've had a lot of fun with it so far. So that's number 9, the 100 line, Last Defense Academy. Next up on the list is a game that I was. It's a tricky one because I think it was on my list last year because it came out in beta or open access or whatever they call it. Hades 2. Hades back in 2020 was probably my favorite game that year, and it's one of my favorite games of all time. It's in my top 10 of all time. Um, it's a roguelike, and you're going through these dungeons, and you're trying to descend through hell or ascend out of hell, I guess, and then you fight Hades, right? But it's just a beautiful narrative, fantastic artwork. It builds over time. All these things are layered in. All these systems interact with each other. It's like a perfect game, right? Hades 2 is let's take that, add a bunch of layers to it, refine it, same artwork, same kind of storyline. It's a different character. It's the first game's sister, I guess, long lost sister. Um, you're still dealing with like Greek gods, and they send you boons, and you fight these different monsters, and it's hard, but it gets easier as you go through. Um, and I'm really having a lot of fun with it, and I played a fair amount this year because the full version came out in September. But I did play a decent amount last year, so I feel like the progress I'm making this year is kind of just rehashing that because I purchased this for Switch 2. I played the first one on the Switch. Play this one on the Switch 2. The open access version I played last year was on my Mac, so it's like a little bit different in terms of that. Um, but I I like it a lot. Uh, I'm just not feeling as compelled to play it. I don't know. It's not different enough from the first one, and my time is limited enough that I'm just not diving in head first. I don't know, like I did the first time around. Like that first game, I played it off and on for like 6 months. And I don't even think I technically beat it because I think when you beat it, you haven't really beaten it. So it's like whatever level I'm at in that game, I'm not quite done with it. Whereas Hades 2, I'm like, it seems like the same from what I've heard, maybe even more. You got to beat the game a whole bunch of times to really beat it. I'm like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get through this. I like it. It's fun. There's cool weapons. There's lots of cool systems. I'm having fun with those systems. I like the character. I like the hub world. I like the stuff you interact with. Um, but it's just not hitting my playtime as much as in past years. So that's why it's on the list 2 years in a row and why it's lower this year than last year. It's a brilliant game. And I might hit a kick at some point and be like, actually, I'm going to play Hades 2 for the next 3 months. Who knows? But so far that hasn't happened. Number 7 is a game that kind of also fits into the tabletop realm. It's the reason I started playing it. Blueprints. Blueprints is an indie game that came out back in March or April last year. Um, and in it, you will go on runs. You have a certain amount of steps you can take, and each room that you enter will use up a certain number of steps. But it'll also give you some abilities. There's puzzles. You unlock things. And every time you go to move from one room to the next, it pulls up some options for you to choose from. You choose the room you want to go to. You go there. Different combinations of rooms do different things. There's notes in the rooms. There's hidden things. Different days of the week respond in different ways. there's a big overarching story, kind of in the background of the game. The framing device is you are this character who's been off, like you will inherit this space if you can solve the puzzle and find the 46th room by the end of a certain amount of time. But there's more beyond that. um, I played this nonstop for like a month. I took notes, I circled back, I woke up at night thinking about like, oh yeah, this. um, and I really really liked it, and then something happened. I don't think it was another game. I think just something happened in my brain after about like 30, 40 hours of playing where I was just like, I think I'm done. And I think probably what happened is I started having multiple runs in a row where not much happened. Or like I just went down the same path I'd already gone down a few times. I wasn't able to get the room I needed from the RNG, because it is random what rooms pop up. Now, there's a bunch of stuff you can do to mitigate that. It's not like you have no control, but at the end of the day, um, I just don't have a lot of patience for that. I don't know. I don't know. It's not the game's fault. I know that it's amazing. And there are certain things later in the game I haven't gotten to yet that I really want to. I've heard other people talk about them. I'm like, oh, I'd really like to see that. But at this point, because I put it down, because I stopped playing it for as long as I did, um, probably I'd have to start from scratch. I don't. My notes don't even make sense anymore. Like I open up the notebook, I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about here. Like I remember a couple really important key things, but um, I would have to redo a lot of things. So this might be a game I come back to in like 4 years when I don't remember anything and I could start from scratch because I really really enjoyed what I played. Um, it's at 7 because it burned really hot and then it died off, and I think part of it's just like the obtuseness of the mid game got to me. All right, that's number 7, Blueprints. Number 6 is Shinobi: Art of Vengeance. This is a side-scrolling beat 'em up style 2D action game. It's Shinobi, right? And this is funny because like Ninja Gaiden Ragebound came out like a month before this, and I was playing that and I was like, this is great. And then Shinobi came out. I'm like, nah, this is much better. So you have a bunch of different abilities. Everything's very fluid. There's a lot of like just really cool bosses. It's not doing anything mind blowing or different. It's just like iterating on a genre that we haven't seen a ton of recently. You're an awesome ninja. You're going on these journeys through these levels, and you're trying to defeat these bosses and avenge the village that had been attacked, and take out this bad guy who thinks of you as the one barrier remaining. Um, the story doesn't really matter too much. I mean, it's done in that style of old Sega game, which is what this is based on. And I don't know. I just love it. I think it's really fun. I played it a whole bunch, and I don't think I would have stopped playing it except my number one game came out, which I'll get to in a little bit. But the game that was number one for me this year came out like 2 or 3 weeks after this one did, and so I put this one down. But I will 100% come back to it. It doesn't seem terribly long. I'll just need to remember all the controls. Now that I've kind of worked my way through some other stuff, I'm going to circle back to this one in 2026. Number 5 is a game, and number 6, by the way, Shinobi: Art of Vengeance. Number 5 is a game that I heard about on a podcast called MinMax, and one of the panelists there was talking about this game in which you catch apples and you catch fish and you mine for ore, and I'm like, oh, okay, sounds fine. But then described how the longer you do it, the more powerful you get. There's like a skill tree that levels up. And so like I caught 3 apples. Well, I can invest those apples, and now I have a slightly bigger basket so I can catch more apples. And now I can spend more time catching apples. And now I have a buddy who helps me catch apples. And eventually a bunch of crazy stuff happens that I don't want to spoil. And so this is a game that I've pulled up several times over the last couple months, and I will peck away at it. And each run, whether you're catching apples or fish or ore, takes like, at the beginning they take literally 10 seconds. So you can sit and do like 100 runs in like 20 minutes. Over time that time gets extended, and then eventually it just keeps going as long as you don't mess up. So the runs now, at least for like apple catching, which is the main one I have invested the most time in, can go like 2, 3, 4 minutes. So I don't get as much unique runs out of it, but some really cool stuff happens in there. And now we're talking like tens of thousands of apples. Like it's not even, doesn't even seem real anymore, but it built up over time. Like it's one of those games, like you have to keep doing it because otherwise you're not going to be able to appreciate what's happening throughout the course of the game. So I really enjoy this. There's other elements to it that I'm still uncovering, right? There's a whole, like, you're expanding the camp, you're finding new areas that unlocks by either fighting bad guys or spending resources. There is a fighting component, like an RPG style turn-based combat. You recruit people to your team as you find them in these new locations. There's new activities you can unlock as well as you go through it. So the game, like, it starts out like you're literally very slowly moving left to right and catching apples, like an old Mac style game from like the 80s. And then it just keeps building and building and building and developing and doing more cool stuff. This has been my favorite game to play. Like let's say I go to bed and I just want to play something for 10, 15 minutes. This is perfect because the runs are so short and there's not like a huge overlapping narrative that really matters in those moments. It's just a good, interesting game that just like triggers that little part of your brain. But it's building over time in a really interesting way. Like they could have done it. I mean, I guess it's already really slow. I recommended this game to a friend and they're like, it's a really slow build. I'm like, it is technically a slow build, but it's not really a slow build. Like when you add up all the time it takes to get to the higher production stuff, it's like an hour or two. But it reminds me of like Cookie Clicker or Paper Clips Unlimited or whatever that game is called, where you start out just like clicking a button and nothing's happening, and eventually you're like fighting God, because it's just like this crazy amount of stuff. It just builds from nothing to this incredible thing. So that's why it's my number 5, Cauldron. Number 4 is an actual beat 'em up. I know I described Shinobi as a beat 'em up. That's more like 2D action. Absalom is a beat 'em up. Like you were going side to side. There's a few bad guys on the screen. You punch them a bit. You knock them out. You move to the next screen. Absalom is also a roguelike. So you are playing as one of several different characters. You unlock more as the game goes on. And you have skill trees where you level up with different abilities, which can be permanent. You upgrade different things as you go. As you move your way through each run, you gain things as well and get stronger. And ultimately, you're trying to get to the end of the map. So you go through these different areas, you fight bosses as you go. And, I would say it took me maybe 3 or 4 hours before I finally got off the first continent and onto the second one. And then as I got more powerful and better at the game, eventually I could get to the end on almost every run. And then it's just a matter of like, how do I max out each of these characters and unlock their different stories and all these different things that are going on. I never think I like beat 'em ups. But every time I sit down to play one, it just like gets its hooks in me and I can't stop until I finish it. Right. These generally aren't long games. Like there was the new Ninja Turtles game that came out back in like 2022. And it was a beat 'em up, but it was like modern style. And I played it straight through. Like I had COVID, to be fair, so I was in bed for a bit, but I didn't stop. I just kept going until I finished the game, like 6, 7 hours, whatever it was. I just kept going. This kind of had the same effect. Maybe not 6, 7 hours because I wasn't sick, but I played it a lot nonstop for several days. And I still go back to it just because it's fun to go through those runs. So Absalom just kind of popped out of nowhere. I think I saw it on someone's Blue Sky account, just like, hey, this game's fun, and I like the artwork, and it it went from there. Number 3 is the game that everybody put at their number 1 this year. Like if you follow any video game media, and I like it a lot. I played through Act 1 of it, like in a week when it came out, and really enjoyed it. And I fell off for who knows again what reasons, but circle back to it at the end of the year and have really, really glad I did. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So this is a RPG, turn-based RPG that came out back in I want to say April, and it's from a French developer, Sandfall Interactive. But they're made up of a bunch of other developers who used to work at places like Ubisoft. So they're not newbies, but it is their first game as a group together. And it is just an amazing, astounding achievement, right? from a narrative perspective, it gets its hooks in you within like 5 minutes. The opening area is just so compelling. The conceit of the game is so compelling. This whole idea of every year a giant clock or a giant number countdown across the ocean ticks down, and anybody that age dies. Like they call it the gamage, but you like just fade away into dust. It's like the opening scene is just like it's that, and then you go on this mission, and every year they send an expedition out. This game is called Expedition 33 because it is the Expedition 33, the people who are 33 years old, and it is they're going on this expedition to try to kill this godlike creature, the Paintress, who they feel does this thing, right? They see her over there, that she paints the new number, they all die. So the game right off the bat has a great conceit. The big thing that really captured me though, because I love a good RPG story, especially if it moves quickly, and this game is relatively short, like 30-40 hours, not like 100 like some. But the thing that really caught me is the combat, right? It's much more interactive than your typical turn-based RPG. Like a turn-based RPG, you pick what they do it, the next person goes, right? It's like a tactical strategy game. The problem with that is that the battles could take 30-40 minutes, and then you lose and you got to do it again. Right? Just thinking back to like the final boss of Final Fantasy X, right? Where I got to the end of that game, tried the boss like 5 or 6 times, put it down for 6 months, moved across the state for college, and finally at some point like November, my friends were like, "You ever gonna beat that?" I'm like, "Oh, I guess I'll try." And it's been another 3 days and finally beat it because it takes so long. It was so long. This doesn't have that because you have this action oriented combat where everything's like you're not going to win if you let the bad guy hit you. You'll die pretty quickly, so you need to block and parry and dodge things. So they have wind-ups. Their motions are the same every time for different attacks. They come in, they swing, and you either dodge it, or if you parry it, you get to hit them back. And then as you dodge and parry, you build up action points, which lets you use more powerful abilities on your turn. It's this really cool back and forth system. Sometimes the bosses get a little hard. You can turn it down to story mode, turn it back up for the regular bad guys, however you want to do it. But that's what really caught me. And then the story has just been, well worth it in the back end. The game's a little buggy. It's a little glitchy. The characters like jitter around the screen sometimes. The music's like weirdly loud. Sometimes you can't quite hear what they're saying. It's clear this is their first game and it was done on a light budget. But that said, some of the voice acting is amazing. They've got Charlie Cox. They've got a bunch of other famous actors. They also got some amazing voice actors. They got the voice of Clive from Final Fantasy 16 and Star. So there's just so much going on here that works so well together. It's just astounding, right? And it's all so very French, right? There's a lot of French elements to it. There's these little characters that you think are speaking gibberish, and then you realize at some point they're speaking French, but in like a gibberish way. It's very cool. I can't really go beyond that without spoiling some of the game. So if you have any interest in RPG gameplay, turn-based RPGs, you should check this one out. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Number 2 is the first game I fully beat this year. I had a blast with it. It's perfect for me at this point in my life, I think, because the game Donkey Kong Bonanza, you are going through these levels, it's platforming, you're jumping around, blah, blah, blah. But then you're digging holes and you're destroying stuff. And it's joyful and destructive and so fun to just rip everything apart. This is the big Switch 2 game of the year, so I had to get it. I had to play it. I played through and beat it. My son played through and beat it. My daughter almost beat it. Like most of the household played through this game at least once. After I finished the game, I did the post-game content. I didn't love the expansion, the roguelike that they added, but everything else was just amazing. The ending of the game is just like silly good fun, especially if you grew up in the 90s. Like if you're my age and you grew up on like Donkey Kong Country, like the last, 2-3 hours of the game, you're like, what are they doing? The core conceit is silly and dumb. Like it's, Donkey Kong wants more bananas. The end. And he also has this little girl with her. He's trying to get her home. Right. So it's so creative, inventive, and different and unique. And like, I don't think everything works, There are some parts that were a little wonky. I didn't love like the snake power or some of the other powers that you get later in the game. I didn't love those. But it's just joyful. It's fun. If it was a little bit shorter in the middle, I think that might be good. Um, it's the game ends up being like 20, 25 hours, which is pretty long for a platformer. And that's not including post game content. But at the end of the day, it's not quite to the level of like Mario Odyssey, which is I think my favorite 3D platformer, and I've beaten it like 3 times. But it is well up there. It is one of the better 3D platformers I've ever played, and yeah, Donkey Kong Bonanza, great game. And number one of the year, the game that came out in September, and honestly, I picked it up because of FOMO, and then I bounced back and forth on it for like a week, and then it finally got its hooks in me, and I've been playing it off and on in very intense streaks ever since September. Is Hollow Knight Silk Song. So a little background on me: I have tried to play Hollow Knight, which is the first game in this series, for since it came out. People are always like, it's amazing. It's a Metroidvania. Oh my gosh, my friends, my watch. It's a Metroidvania, and I love those games. Some of my favorite genre of games. It's you're building up powers over time. It's like action combat. It's all those things I like. 2D action game, amazing. But it was really hard. And the first Hollow Knight was not just hard, but kind of slow at the beginning. Like not much happens. You don't know where you are. You're just lost for hours. And I just never got over that hump of that, like that first. I don't even know how long it is. I think someone told me it's like 4 or 5 hours of the beginning of that game where you're just kind of wandering around lost. And I'm like, I don't like this. Right? It's not fun. Um, Everyone tells me it's fun, but I don't believe them. Silk Song came out. Everybody said it's great. And I'm like, okay, maybe the new one iterates enough that it does some cool stuff. And I liked the look of the character. And I heard that she was a little sassy and actually had some voice, or not like voice dialogue, right? Where the original game, it's a voiceless protagonist. Um, and so I picked it up. It was only $20. So I was like, what? This won't hurt. Um, and the game immediately gets you into the action. Things are happening right away. The combat is just as it's more fluid, by the way, than Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight's a little clunky at the beginning before you get your abilities. Silk Song is just immediately fluid. The areas are interesting. The bad guys are interesting. There's dialogue that's interesting. And I got to the first boss within like 3 or 4 days, and then spent 2 days on that. But then the other big thing that happened is my daughter, who's 11 now, she was 10 at the time, started watching the game and like getting really invested and like rooting for things and being like, don't kill that one, that's cute. Right. Right. And so it's a little bit of a spoiler if you haven't played it, but the first boss you fight, possibly the second, depending on what direction you go at the beginning of the game, but ends up being like this like transportation source. Like they move you around the first area of the game. I struggled with that because early on you don't have any abilities, right? So you can't move very fast. The downward slash is a little funny. It comes at an angle. The timing of everything's a little off. So I died a whole bunch, which is what happens in this game. And she was like all about it. She was counting the hits for me. Like, okay, I think it seems like it's going to take 35, 40 hits. So she would count them up and she's like, you're at 30, you're almost there. And that really sold the game a little bit. But ultimately, I think what happened for me with Hollow Knight Silk Song, and I've never gotten into a game quite like this before. Usually, if a game's really hard, it's not that I don't want to power through, it's that I don't have the time or the emotional energy, right? I tried Elden Ring a bunch. I got like 10, 20 hours into the game, and mostly I just died. And I know that's the point of the game, but I would get angry, right? I mentioned Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is still a game where I will yell at it, right? I get mad because I'm like, gosh, the stupid timing on these stupid attacks. I just can't get it. Hollow Knight Silk Song, I found myself not getting mad. Everything felt fair. Everything looked doable. And the fights are so quick, right? It takes a minute or two to run all the way back and attempt to fight. So like the final boss of Act 1, it's a big boss, amazing fight. The full thing takes maybe 3-4 minutes. It's not that long, and the run back to get there required like memorizing a bunch of specific moves. It took me a week, like a full week. right before winter break to get through that. And I just kept doing it and kept doing it. Then every third fight, I would get a little bit further in the progression of the boss fight. And then eventually, the final time I beat it, the boss exploded. Like, I beat it. My daughter and I, we high-fived. We jumped up and down. I'd probably done it 100 times. And then it exploded, and I died. And then I had to do it again. And I was at first kind of mad, but then I was like, well, I just did it. It can't be that, like, I must be there, right? It took 3 more tries to beat it again. So, like, I played 100 times to beat that boss once, and then it only took 3 more to get there one more time. And so the progression, it's just like the skills they're there, right? I don't have to think about it. My fingers know what to do. I'm just kind of playing through it. And there's just something calming about that. Like, I feel like I've accomplished something. Like, there's a story here. I'm paying some attention to it. I'm not really invested, especially because I didn't play the first game. I don't know the world as well. But the progression through the mechanics, the development of that skill, knowing that I can do it, it creates this like mini sense of accomplishment, which I know is what people get from these types of games, and that's why people like Dark Souls and they like Elden Ring. But the frustration that comes with those 3D ones isn't there for me. And I don't know if it's how quickly it moves or the fact there's less happening on the screen, so I'm always clear about what's there. Like, everything's in very sharp contrast. I can see it all. But at the end of the day, Hollow Knight Silksong, it keeps coming back. I'm like 40, 50 hours into the game. I technically haven't beat it, but it's a game with enough content to go on for 100 hours. So I'll keep chipping at it, because what'll happen is I'll explore, I'll poke around, I'll find a boss, and then I might spend 2 to 3 days on that boss. And I don't play it that much. Like, I might play for 20 or 30 minutes at a time. Like, last night I beat a boss that I've been working on for a couple days. But last night I was like, no, I'm going to beat this now. I feel good. I think I'm there. I'm just going to keep trying until I do it. But other times, maybe that's not the feeling I have, where I'm like, I'm just not getting it. So I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to let my brain reset. I'll come back tomorrow. And it's just, I don't know. I haven't gotten that feeling from a video game since I was like a child, like, where it's just like, this is hard, but it's worth it. And it's really gratifying when I get there. And it makes me want to go back and play the first one. It also makes me want to go back and play like Elden Ring and some of these other games that I kind of bounce off of eventually because of the difficulty. Because I feel like maybe my brain has clicked in a way where I'm understanding something I didn't before. I hope so, because those games were fun, but they were hard. So, anywho, that is my number one game for this year, Hollow Knight Silksong. Did not see that coming. I played it. Honestly, if it had cost $30, I probably wouldn't even have bought it, and I wouldn't even known it was there. And then I would have had to move one of those other games up to the list, because Silksong wouldn't be here. But as it is my favorite game of 2025. So there you have it, folks. My top 10 video games of last year. This coming year, it looks like it's going to be a whole bunch of remakes and re-releases. Games that I have pre-ordered coming in are like Final Fantasy VII Remake for my Switch 2 and Dragon Quest 7 Reimagined. So there's stuff like that. And then there's, again, Grand Theft Auto 6 in the fall, which it's not for me. I already know it's not for me. I'm not going to play it. So my goal this year is to go back and play some of these all-timers that I just haven't gotten around to yet. So, like, my playlist right now is things that I know I will like, and I just didn't have a chance to play in the years they came out. So I want to finish Hollow Knight Silksong throughout the year. I want to go back and play Metaphor ReFantazia. I played that last year, got like 15, 20 hours in, and then stopped playing it for some reason. I mentioned Elden Ring, wanting to go back to that. Control 2 comes out this year. I never quite finished the first one. I'd like to go back and play Control, and then maybe Alan Wake 2 on top of that. So I'm going to use the year to go back and play some good old stuff that, based on what I liked in 2025, I think I will enjoy. And then whatever Nintendo announces and releases, because I dig their stuff. So there you have it, folks. That's my top 10 video games of 2025. If you like this video, please do all the stuff you do. I don't know. I'm not a big YouTube guy, but I appreciate it. And if you're listening on Patreon, thank you for backing. You're awesome. And I look forward to doing the next one of these next week, which will be my top 10 movies of 2025. I think I'm done watching stuff from 2025. So I'm ready to lock in that list and just be good with it. But there you have it, folks. Thank you so much. I'll catch you next week. This is Anthony. Bye bye.